Please, please be with us now, Lord, that we'll, as we have this study, that we'll continue to study together, have a better understanding of it. I know I need to have a better understanding of it. And I know that you'll be right there in the midst of us, Lord. So thank you for all those that are here. May you bless them. Those that are not here, wherever they are, please bless them, Lord. For we give you thanks and we give you praise, in and through our beloved Saviour, always to your great honour and glory. Amen. Okay, just bear with me. Just going to share my screen. Let's share a bit now. Oh, that's it. I think this bit bigger, I think. Oops. Oh, hold on. Just do that for a bit. Screen. Just, yeah. Bear with me. Should be. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Can't get it to go back on the top. I don't know why it's not doing that. It's sort of stuck, I think. Just bear with me. I'm going to come out of this. Oops. Out of share. I'll go back into my presentation again. And enable. Just do them. And then, right, can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Right, okay. The study that I'm going to do today is going to be about I wanted to understand what was in a radical feminist mind when they're transphobic. And so I'm going to do a study about that today to try and understand exactly what is in her mind and what's going to come out in this study today. So just I'm just going to go on to the next one. So this presentation is about the transphobic feminism, and it's understanding a radical feminist point of view on trans men. Right. The author of the book that I'm going to concentrate on today is Janice Raymond, who is a controversial figure in the realm of gender studies and feminism. Her book, The Transsexual Empire, The Making of the She-Male, has been criticised by many because of her negative portrayal of trans women and her stance against transgender rights and access to healthcare. In her book, she argues that transgender women reinforce traditional gender roles and that their existence is a threat to feminism. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Anybody? Right, okay. Can somebody read what's on the screen for me, please? Can somebody read what's on the screen?
Evie,
Yeah.
are you able to zoom in? It's quite small.
No, this is the largest I can do it.
It's really small.
You can zoom in on your own Zoom. I can read it,
Yeah,
Debbie.
I'm going to say I can't make this any bigger than it is. This is the largest it is.
So if you just hover over the screen, you can actually zoom out if you're on the laptop. I don't know about telephone.
Okay.
I can read the first one. Shall I read the first one? Critics argue Raymond's views marginalise and invalidate the experiences of transgender individuals. They believe that her work contributes to the discrimination and stigmatization faced by trans people, perpetuating harmful stereotypes and exclusionary attitudes.
Mm.
I think that the point you made on the first slide was quite important, because I think
Yes.
that whole thing about people wanting to be trans. The angle she's coming from, I assume, is that she's, well, from what that first paragraph said, is that when you actually want to change over, you're actually reinforcing gender stereotypes, because you're saying, I don't want to be A, I want to be B, I don't want to be male, I want to be female.
Yeah.
And in doing that, there's something about being female that's attracting you, which is in itself gender, you know, it's forcing gender.
Yes, exactly.
It's reinforcing the fact that there is male and female, and that's the battle. But obviously critics are arguing that when she does that, it's really minimalizing their experience or stigmatizing them. Yeah.
Yes, okay, thank you, Emma. Can somebody read the next one for me? Charity, can you read the next one for me, please?
Okay. It is important to note that the term transphobic feminism refers to a specific subset of feminism that is criticized for its exclusionary stance towards transgender individuals. Not all feminists hold transphobic beliefs, and many feminists advocate for transgender rights and inclusion.
Amen. Thank you. I think that's self-explanatory, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Can somebody, thank you.
Debbie, I have a question.
Yeah, sure. Is that Curtis?
Yes.
Oh,
it
yeah,
is.
I didn't see you in the thing. Yes, sorry.
Yes. So transphobic, the term transphobic, would you classify, because the way in which it's explained here is someone who feels that trans individuals should be excluded from different areas of life.
Yes.
So if hypothetically I believed that trans individuals should be excluded from a specific area of life,
You believe it?
and I believe it,
Right.
does it make me transphobic?
I
Like,
think
is there more to transphobia
yes, there
than
is.
just
Yes.
that statement? Yeah.
Yes, because we're going to go into that. We're going to go deeper into that, because what I'm trying to, thanks for asking that, Curtis, because we've only just started, so we're going to elaborate a bit more on this, and we're going to find out. I'm just starting, and I'm gradually creeping up, because what I want to do is, this study is about looking at into the mind of a radical feminist who's transphobic. What does that mean? So that's what I'm going to try and bring out in this study today.
Right. Okay. Got you. Sure.
Thank you. Okay, can somebody read the next one for me? Richard, would you mind reading the next one for me?
Unfortunately, Raymond is not the only author who has been charged for being transphobic. Even though they are supposedly practicing radical feminism, authors like Gloria Steinem, Mary Daly, Jermaine Greer, Margaret
Eichler,
Claudia O'Leary, Sheria Jeffries, Bernice
Hausman,
and Marjorie Garber, to name a few here. These authors also join the agenda of being trans exclusive.
Thank you very much, Richard. So a movement variously known as gender critical feminism or trans exclusionary radical feminism, known as TERF, holds that womanhood is defined on the axis, that's the alliance of sex, and thus asserts that trans women are not women, that trans men are not men. So they oppose trans rights and rejects the concept of transgender identities. These views are frequently being described as transphobic by other feminists. Oops, why is it not going? Right, okay. Okay. Okay, can somebody read what's on the screen, please? Hmm. Someone who hasn't read?
I can read.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this has gone dropped too much. Yes, it's supposed to be like that. And that. And then, yeah, sorry, this one. But I jumped too
The
much.
one that says Raymond argues.
That one, yeah.
Okay, Raymond argues that transsexualism is part of a continuum that includes the beauty industry, heterosexist propaganda and economic pressure, foot binding, genital mutilation, pornography, and other institutions, whereby men shape women to an audacious extreme, from creating the feminine ideal from the native born, the experts have moved on to constructing it from male flesh.
What do you think of that?
I don't think that's a good argument, to be honest.
Right, okay.
Because if I understand it correctly, she's classing the experience that transgender people go through.
Yeah,
particularly those that transition to becoming women. She's classing that with things that we already know are problematic, like the beauty industry and so many other abuses like genital mutilation, porn industry, and things like that. Because with the examples that she gives, these are, how do I even explain it? So society imposes what am I trying to say? Basically, society imposes what do you call it? A standard, and it's quite unfair and oppressive on women. And I do understand that trans people are affected by the pressures of society. But I don't think it's in the same way in this case, because she's arguing against the people who are the victims in this case, as opposed to the other examples where she clearly acknowledges that, well, I think she does, that women are the victim. So, yeah, I thought that would not be a fair and honest comparison.
No, okay. Thank you very much, Blessing, for that. Thank you. Can somebody read the next one?
Before we move on, can I ask a question to you, Debbie, or Blessing?
Or Blessing.
Well, I guess Blessing, because he brought it up.
Yeah, because he made
Yes. So the author makes this comparison to the beauty industry and the expectations that are placed on women to conform to a certain beauty standard. And so said women, the extreme example is will do things to mutilate their bodies, right? I didn't quite understand why it's not a valid comparison. Could you elaborate why it's not a fair comparison to say that? No, maybe not genital mutilation, because we appreciate that that's inflicted by parents. It's done to children by parents. Maybe let's use a small example like ear piercings.
Like what?
Like piercings. Yeah, where it's the individual who makes that decision because of pressures from society.
Okay, like I said, her premise is based on being against trans people.
Let's stop. Let's not use the conclusion.
No, because I'm saying her argument is in support of a conclusion. That's why I'm saying it wouldn't be fair. So we're speaking within the context of what Raymond is arguing, as opposed to whether society does affect trans people, because that's my point.
Okay, I guess what I was trying to get at is it can we see any validity in the argument without working backwards from the conclusion?
Okay, like I said, Curtis, I understand that. I think I even mentioned in my answer that I understand trans people are affected by societal pressures, just like
Yeah.
women are.
Mm.
But I don't think it's a fair comparison in this case because she's using that to speak against trans people. She's speaking against the victim as opposed to against the oppressors. That was really my point.
Don't we do the same when we talk about beauty standards on women, though?
No, but
We
we
speak
speak
of them
about
as
we clearly
victims.
say we're on the side of women for as much as
Yeah.
the beauty industry affects women and
Mhm.
we don't support women putting on makeup, but we recognize that it's not the woman's fault.
Okay.
We're not doing that.
Societal pressure.
It's not
Okay, so
saying we
okay, I
recognize
get
it's
you.
not the trans people's fault. So, and I'm saying that's
Okay.
not.
Okay.
Yeah.
She doesn't
Okay, fine.
recognize
I get you. Okay, fine. Okay, I understand. Sorry, I understand. So just to clarify, your point is that if there's a gap in our argument to not recognize that there's external influences to those trans individuals' decisions.
Yeah.
Yes.
So she
Okay.
then blames it on the trans people as opposed
Mm.
to
Okay.
society, like the other examples she gave.
Okay.
Do you think she's actually blaming the trans person in that paragraph? Because it seems
Yeah,
like
I don't think she
she's
is.
no. Well, first of all, I've got big problems with the first sentence, let alone the second one. I think it says that first of all, she's lumped the beauty industry with heterosexist propaganda and economic pressure, but then she's put foot binding, genital mutilation, pornography, and other institutions whereby men shape women to an audacious extreme. So, okay, she may be saying patriarchy there, but she's saying men specifically. And we know for a fact that women do genital mutilation as well. This is not just a male thing, this is a woman thing, that they do it to the women. So that's the first thing. But so she's blaming men here for doing this to women and putting them under this pressure in all those situations. And then going on to say from creating, and so it's all about creating a feminine ideal and saying, and now these experts, these men have moved on to constructing it from male flesh, like it's something that men are doing to women and men are doing to trans people, that it takes away the choice of the trans person. And it's not really completely correct, that first bit. Okay, it's already a patriarchal society, so I guess that's the point. So, but yeah, if she's blaming the trans person in the second part, yeah, obviously they're victims just like women are. I suppose is that what she's saying? So I don't know if
I just want to explain why I said that. I said that because the conclusion was already given before. So I'm saying I'm speaking within the context of where, like, the conclusion she gets to, as opposed to the fact that trans people are affected by society as well. Because that's the context in which I'm speaking, that, okay, if she's using this to then argue that, so therefore we should be trans exclusive, that is not a fair argument.
Actually, she agrees with Blessing.
Absolutely.
Can I say something as well?
Yes, go ahead.
From what Emma was saying, I've also noticed that it seems, I don't know if I'm seeing it correctly, it seems as though she's saying that the whole idea of okay, she's speaking about men creating this thing with the whole issue of the patriarchy and how they have created a woman in a certain way, basically forcing women to do certain things to have that ideal woman as they see it, right? And then they have moved beyond just women, but now it's almost as if she's saying they are now taking a man. It's almost like an agenda that's there where they're now using men to create or construct that woman using male flesh. And yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, it doesn't sound right. I don't know if really it seems it sort of like nullifies, or rather she doesn't accept the fact that there's actually men who are going through this struggle.
Exactly.
Or people who were assigned male at birth who are going through the struggle of the whole issue of accepting their body, and they don't feel like they want, not that they don't feel, where they have this struggle between their body and their mind. The whole issue that we discussed about, where you are born female and it doesn't agree with how you feel, right? I don't know if I'm explaining it correctly, but she's not accepting that, but it comes out as though it's an agenda of a construction that is being made by men. So it waters down the experience of a trans woman. I don't know if I can say
Yes,
trans woman. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Debbie, sorry, can I just add to what Charity's saying?
Yes, sure, yeah.
It seems to assume two things. One, it seems to assume that all trans women want to become women because they're going after some kind of, beauty standard, to want to be feminine, to be constructed as a female in the typical kind of way that society wants it to be female. And that would imply they would all have to look, like the sexy women with makeup and long hair and high heels and stuff. And that's more, and that's not all trans women don't want to look like that. And I think, and then what does it do with trans men? What does it do with women who are now wanting to transition to be male? It seems to be focusing completely on the fact that it's men wanting to be women.
Yeah, exactly. Strangely enough, in her book, I found that she didn't concentrate on that so much. She was sort of more lenient about that one. Whereas, especially when she talked to the book, I don't bring it out in here. There's lots of arguments I could bring out, but basically what she says in her book is that she goes to the medical side of things and how is it that, it's more expensive when a woman has to go into a male than it is the other way around. It's actually less expensive for a woman to change into a man than it is a man to a woman, and she really hems in on that as well. So I'm trying to look into her mind and find what is it, I'm trying to pick up these things out of her mind. What is it that's in there? We know what it is at the end of the day, the whole picture, but I want to pick out these little things that she's saying, what's making her think this way. What is it that's really the bind of her contention, if you see what I mean? Bone of her contention, I should say. So that's what I'm going to look into today. Thank you for that, everybody. Can somebody read the next one for me on the screen? Please.
Okay. Radical and separatist feminism and its commitment to binarism, particularly the order of male-born men and female-born women, could neither accommodate nor address transgender identities and their different levels of discrimination. A commonly used example of separatism is the disapproval of transgender presence and participation in feminist and female exclusive circles, such as the Michigan Women's Music Festival, the Woman Born Woman policy, while aiming to create spaces for female or woman-born and raised women, particularly discriminated against transgender and transsexual women. Narratives of male energy and trans men's abandoning the female race were invoked to justify trans exclusion. I did not get that. I don't know if anyone understood that.
The Women Born Women policy part, or
the whole thing, what it's saying.
Racial and separatist feminism. Do you know what separatist feminism is?
No. Is that the exclusionary?
Yeah. When I don't want men in there and it's just separate.
Okay.
I think I got the gist of what she was saying.
Yeah.
So from what I understand, she was saying is that because of misogyny that exists in society, women assigned female at birth. So I'll use the term biological women, just so that we can distinguish between trans and born female, have these bad experiences in society. And so they want to create spaces where men aren't involved, so they don't have to feel unsafe. The classic example is female-only gyms because of the constant gawking and flirting and sexism that women feel in the gym. They will create a women's-only gym. And so what I understand, I'm not giving my opinion on it, but what I understand what the author was saying is now in trying to create these spaces, you have trans women who didn't have the lived experience of a woman, who have their own experience, but didn't have the lived experience of a woman assigned female at birth, wanting to be in these spaces as well. And position is it can lead to women assigned female at birth feeling unsafe in those very spaces that they aim to create. Again, that's not my position. I'm just trying to understand what the author's saying.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. I'm just going to put something in the chat and I want somebody to read it out, please. And this is an excerpt from Raymond's book. I'll put it in the chat. I don't know if Emma wants to read that out. Can everybody see it?
Yeah, I can read that.
This is an excerpt from her book.
According to the psychological theories, if the individual fails to adjust to his native body and role, then he should be treated. If all forms of personal and family therapy fail to adjust the would-be transsexual's mind to the would-be transsexual's body, then the individual answer is to adjust the transsexual's body to his mind, their mind. In this perspective, hormonal treatment and surgery become a humane and logical solution to the transsexual problem.
What do you get out of that sentence and what she's thinking? What's she saying?
She's saying that according to the theory of it, if people are not happy in the body they're born in, then they give them some therapy, some mental therapy to say, you need to adjust to that body. And if they can't do that, then their next step is to say, well, let's give you hormonal treatment and surgery so you are happy in that body. We'll change that. If you can't change your mind, we'll change your body for you. And she says that seems to be a logical solution to the problem.
All right, okay. Do you think she's been somewhat sarcastic in what she's saying?
I don't know if she's agreeing with that position. I think she's
and that's how I thought of it. When I looked at it, I'm thinking, well, it sounds great, but I think, is she saying, oh, this is what they're saying?
She's saying according to the theories, she's not.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I feel like there's a bit of sarcasm there somewhere, or not cats. I don't know if that's the right word. As if to say,
I think she's just sharing their argument to why they do that.
Yeah. Okay then. Thank you very much. I'll move on to the next one. So I've done a
Did you read the last one? We didn't read the last one, did we?
Yes, we did. Yeah, that was it.
The second paragraph.
Yeah, we did. Charity read it.
Oh yeah, sorry. That one. Yeah.
And so this is basically just an outline of what this woman-born woman policy is. It's as you can see, they spelt women with MYN at the end. So it's used alternative, like a political way of spelling women, because they don't want to put the man MAN in it, as regards to excluding it. So we know when this first came out, this women-born women policy, it actually was developed during the second wave feminism, and second wave feminism took place between the 1960s for 2 decades. And we know what second wave feminism is. It's found on or focused on legal, economic, social rights of women, that sort of thing. And one of their top priorities during that was gender roles, reproductive rights, financial independence, domestic violence, workplace equality. So this is what second wave feminism focused on. So this word, usage of word women, WOMYN, it's a feminist spelling of woman, WOMEN. It first appeared in print in 1976, referring to the first Michigan Women's Musical Festival. So these type of organizations, events with women-born women policies specifically exclude trans women from these spaces, restricting access only to cisgender women. And of course, in the third wave and fourth wave feminisms, this sort of fizzled out. Anybody have any questions about that? Okay, I'll go on to the next one. Can somebody read that on the screen, please? Can somebody read the one on the screen, please?
Okay, I
You
can
read
read it.
No.
Who was that?
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, Magda can go ahead.
Oh, Magda. Yeah, thank you.
The radical and almost separatist feminism Raymond adheres to and espoused contend that transsexualism, specifically male to female transitioning, is a social and political phenomenon and a creation of the patriarchal medical establishment from which norms of masculinity and femininity are derived. According to her, transsexual women are the women but deviant males. Transsexualism itself is uniquely restricted by patriarchy's definitions of masculinity and femininity, and the transsexual is body-bound by them and merely rejects one and gravitates towards the other, believing the following are patriarchal tools of oppression. Raymond stands against sexual reassignment surgery and sexist counseling procedures. Do you
Carry
want
on.
me to finish?
Yes,
Carry
please.
on?
Yeah.
Raymond contends that male energy, privilege, and dominance lie beneath the transsexual veneer. She is critical of the implications posed by transitioning, seeing these processes as governed by the oppressive patriarchal ordering of society. On the one hand, male body persons abuse their male privilege to assume the desired bodies of male constructed femininity, and Raymond likeness to this to rape.
There's a lot in there, isn't there? What did you get from this? Or anybody can join in as well and help Magda. Can somebody help Magda? Richard? Anybody?
Debbie,
Oh, is that Blessing?
yes, blessing.
Mhm.
I don't even know what to say about this, because there's some aspects of this passage that I see as making sense and some that I don't see as making sense.
Yeah, the first half makes
So,
sense.
So, for example, the idea of, because I think we've had this discussion before,
Yeah,
of
we have.
being, of this feminine construct, that to be a woman means something. You have to be a certain way or look a certain way.
Yeah.
That's definitely problematic, and I agree with that. But I don't understand when it says transsexual women are not women but deviant males. It still seems to talk about the whole gender divide.
Yes.
Deviant males, unless she's speaking males strictly from a biological point of view in terms of.
Well, I would say biological. I think definitely it comes out
but-
quite prominent when you read her book.
But even then, biologically, you don't have a binary system either. We've learned that. So yeah, but I guess one of the most problematic comparisons for me was the last sentence. I think on the one hand, male body persons abuse their male privilege to assume the desired bodies of male constructed femininity. What is she saying there? Because it almost seems like she's saying people that transition to becoming women are using a privilege to assume a body of a male constructed idea of a woman. And then she likens that to rape.
Yes, I know.
Huh?
I didn't understand the sentence. I guess maybe if someone could explain it to me, I could comment a bit more about it. But
On the one hand, male body
that sounds
abuse.
really
Well, she's talking
problematic.
about the abuse. If you think about the abuse side of it and the male privilege,
Yes, but who is she saying is abusing their male privilege? Is it the trans person?
the trans person, yes.
That's really a problem because, like I'm
Because
saying,
she's still seeing them as male, that's why.
yeah, and still putting blame on them
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
and likening that to rape, because rape is a very traumatic.
I mean, when I
Period.
first read that, I thought that's quite a strong word.
Yeah, it's a very,
For me, she really the depression runs deep with her, I think. The oppression in her, well, her thinking, and the dislike of it runs deep.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I was going to say, I mean, there's information. I've read a bit of information. I wouldn't say
Mm.
I've got I've read enough on the subject, but I have read some information, some of which has been shared on the
Mm.
media broadcast that shows the stress and trauma that trans people
Go through.
undergo, that they go
Yeah.
through. You
It's
know,
awful.
it's really traumatic.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think it can ever be compared to abusing male privilege
Mm. But
to
this is
assume
this is what she's
different
thinking.
body.
Yeah, this is what she's still thinking. Thank you.
JB, I'm
Yes, go on,
also
sorry.
thinking something. That she's. It seems like I'm not sure if that's what I'm getting. If it's correct, it seems like she's she's basically saying if someone is born like is assigned male at birth,
Yeah.
they are male to the core, right? And basically, like I said before, she's not accepting the experience of a trans woman.
No, she's not.
We're saying, okay, you know what, it's affecting me the way my body is, and I don't want to be in this body. I feel trapped. She's not
Mm.
accepting that experience,
No,
and
definitely
she's
not.
basically saying if a person is assigned male at birth, or
Mm.
she's defining the whole idea of male and female as being something so deep that it can never be changed, almost like, you know, the like if you're born the way you are, it
Mm.
doesn't matter what you do, you
No,
can never change yourself. Even
no,
if
no.
you can never see yourself in a different way, you still act like a male, you still have the male privilege. So basically when she's looking at a trans woman,
Yeah.
she's saying, she's describing it like what I get from that last paragraph. She's describing that person as sort of like having a fetish with a female body, and
Yes.
then they go on this journey where they put on this female body that they fetishize over. And I think that's it. Only makes sense that she likens it to rape, because it's almost like, okay, you are assuming a body that you're fetishizing over, you know,
Mm.
that kind of thing. And yeah, it really sounds wrong. And
Isn't it, don't you think it's quite shocking for a radical
yeah, it
feminist?
is.
It is.
It
I mean,
is.
and this is why I thought to myself, it's all right saying we understand what a radical feminist turf is, exclusionary, person is. But I thought to myself, there's got to be just more to just understanding that they're sexist. I want to know what she's thinking. I want to know how she's coming to the ideas. What's making her think that way? What, you know what I mean? So I went and delved into this, and I thought, let me look at this book because I've got it by PDF, and I'll actually put it into the forum for everybody to look at. And it is, when I read this, I was shocked. I thought, gosh, this is what's in her mind. And I thought, right, I'm going to, try and understand, and put this into a presentation. I thought, gosh, this woman is, gosh, the sexist is the deepest sexist I've ever heard of. I mean, this is shocking. When I heard her call them transsexual veneer, but when she said to rape, I thought, gosh, this is such a strong word that, I don't know what else to say, but it is really bad. That's all I can say.
Yeah,
It's really bad.
It
I
seems
think it's Oh,
Did
sorry.
you finish? Did you finish?
I just wanted to say I think it's
Clarity, yeah.
important for us to understand that as well, so
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we get rid of some of the ideas that we might have
Definitely,
on how we
definitely.
look at them. Yeah.
Yes, we're going to look at that today. So when I go on to the rest of the presentation, Emma.
Yeah, I was going to say she seems to be coming from a really strong anti-patriarchal but
Definitely.
anti-male stance. So she seems to really hate men. And if you think that patriarchy is a male constructed thing and you're blaming the men for it, she's blaming the male doctors for doing this. She's blaming the roles of male and female in society because of patriarchy, and that's taking her to an extreme position of saying all men are bad. Therefore, if a man wants to become, and it's a bit counterintuitive, because if she's saying it's all about male power and privilege, and that women want to be men because they want that privilege, and men want to be women, there's no reason why a man would want to be a woman then. And yet she goes on to say, now they're using their male privilege to have some, I think the word fetish was what Charity used, but yeah, that similar sort of fascination with a woman's body. But why would anyone in a patriarchal, male-dominated society where men have power want to become a woman? That doesn't make sense. But she seems to be in a position of extreme men hating. And I was just looking at what a separatist feminist is. And it seems
separate from man. Yeah, they're separate.
Yeah, they separate from mainstream feminism because and it started because it was about lesbian. It was mainly lesbians, but it was women.
Well, you know this writer. She's a radical a lesbian as well.
I was going to say, is she a separatist feminist? Because separatist feminism, they found that they were getting homophobic treatment amongst feminists. So you can understand where they're coming from to a degree. So they're feminist in the feminist movement. Some of them are lesbians and some of them are not, I assume. I don't know.
Which is right, she's a lesbian.
Yeah. So I was going to say, that's where she's coming from. I don't know if she is a lesbian, but obviously you're saying she is.
She is.
But they separated because they didn't feel comfortable amongst other feminists because they were getting homophobic treatment. So they separate off and they feel more comfortable as women with women, and they're quite anti-men because a lot of them are lesbians because of the treatment they were getting. So you can see why that led them there, but I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing, but they went there for that reason. So separatist feminists generally hate men or don't like men and think that if they separate, that's the way to bring down patriarchy. So that's the reason why they're doing it. They're saying the only way we can get rid of this patriarchy is because it's male dominated, is to separate from the men and stand on our own 2 feet and do our own thing. And that's the way to get ourselves out from under patriarchy. So that's their way of being radical feminists, to get away from men. So you can see why she's going down that route. Now, I don't understand the last bit about arguing against, using it as rape, but this is an extreme position, but that's where she's coming from, it seems.
She's coming from, yeah, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to move on. Is that the one I wanted to go through? Hold on. Right, okay. What's going on with this? It shouldn't be this. It should be hold on, medical. Yeah, that. I think I'm going to put this in. Yeah, I'm going to put this one first, and then put the other one. I think I did it the other way around. Right, can somebody read what's on the screen, please? And we'll go back to the other one.
I can read.
Thank you.
For Raymond, who also echoes Simone de Beauvoir, the invention that is the feminine is very much a male project carried out by men for men. De Beauvoir remarked that men would have invented the woman if she did not exist. Raymond states, in this sense, could be said that all women who confirm, I don't know if it's confirm or conform, confirm to this invention are transsexuals, fashioned according to man's image. Lesbian feminists, on the other hand, are contrary. Sorry, I'm not.
Where are you reading?
Let me just take that again. Raymond states, in this sense, it could be said that all women who conform to this invention are transsexuals, fashioned according to man's image. Lesbian feminists, on the other hand, are contrary. Male inventiveness, and provide a context in which women begin to create themselves in their own image. The deceptive transsexual hijacks the lesbian feminist, and Raymond lists Sandy Stone as one culprit. For Raymond, this inauthentic transsexual constructed lesbian feminist woman, having acquired the artifacts of female biology, essentially remains a product of male inventiveness and is essentially a function of the patriarchal institution of medicine and culture. Such a monstrosity threatens women, even though the femininity which Raymond has discussed as having been attached to women could render women as monstrosities of male invention themselves, one of many inconsistencies in a way.
Yeah. Mm.
So, Debbie, question
Mm-hmm.
on I guess the study. Is the study specifically about the way in
Oh,
which this author discusses the subject, or
yes,
are we
yes, yes,
discussing the subject as a whole? Okay,
yes, what you just said before. Yes,
okay,
yeah,
okay. Just a comment on that. I think it's unfortunate that, you know, that she uses really inflammatory language
yes,
in
definitely.
discussing the subject,
Mm,
where from, now this is just my opinion, some of the arguments, I think we would see a bit more sense in if they weren't framed in such inflammatory terms.
mm,
And so that's why I said I think it's unfortunate. She does her agenda a disservice. Not
yes,
that I back her agenda, but
mm,
it feels like yeah,
yes,
she
she does.
just
She does.
doesn't do whatever she's trying to
No,
portray
no,
any
and
good because she uses such inflammatory language.
exactly.
And it's not going to persuade anyone.
No, but believe it or not, this book is actually a bestseller, and it's actually done the damage already. And we're going to find that out later on in the presentation. It's been very good in influencing people otherwise, and that's why you see a lot of transphobic rising because of this book. And so we'll move on, swiftly move on. But thank you for that. I'm going to put something in the chat again, and I would like somebody to read it. And I'm going to do it now. So this is what Raymond has said. So somebody read that out for me, please.
Transsexualism urges us to conclude in the falsification of reality.
You was laughing then?
Did you say something, Debbie?
No, go ahead.
That men can be real women, all in the pretense that transsexualism breaks down the barriers of sex repressiveness, sex role rigidity, and gender itself.
Does anybody want to comment about that? What Raymond said in the book? Did everybody hear that?
It's just saying they twist reality.
Does anybody else want to comment about that? Thank you, Richard. Okay, so we'll move on then. So Simon,
Yeah, sorry.
sorry.
I think that's quite interesting. That
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it's all interesting, but it's this whole thing about binary system, because she's saying that transsexualism urges us to collude in the falsification of reality that men can be. So she's saying that transsexual people or transitioning is asking us to buy into this false reality that men can be real women, all in the pretense that when they do that, it breaks down the barriers of sex repressiveness, sex role rigidity, and gender itself. Because they're stepping out, on one level, they're stepping out against that rigidity and saying, look, you want me to conform to this male body and be a male in the male, and I don't want to be this male that you want me to be. And I've spoken to a transgender person that's what they're kicking out against, that masculinity, that toxic masculinity. They don't want to be a toxic male. They've not transitioned or anything. They look male if you're going to look at them, but they identify as they because they don't want to be male or female. They don't want to be in that male box. And then she, on the other hand, is coming
to put them in there.
Yeah, and she's, on the other hand, is separating based on male and female, saying us women are going to stand over here as real women, whatever that means, because we've biologically got the body parts. But what does that look like? So what does a woman who is stepping out against those roles look like, or stepping out against binary roles? I mean, it just seems to be, how do you do that?
Yeah, well, yes.
Yes, and Curtis's question, outside of biological terms, can anyone define what a woman or man is? Exactly. And almost you could argue the other way, that transsexual people are stepping out of that, saying, I don't want to be in this box.
Yeah,
You've put me in
and that's
for
their
whatever
right
reason.
too.
Yeah.
Mm.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
One of the, I don't know if I can call it a thread or underlying theme that seems to be running through the book. I think Charity and Emma said this before, but I guess I wanted to put it slightly differently, in the sense that she seems to focus on the problem as being men or males. That you've got men in power and they're the ones that orchestrate everything. That's the impression I'm getting. And if that is correct, then it sounds like it has the anatomy of a conspiracy theory. Because conspiracy theories, like at their very base, it's about a group of people, come together. They're in a powerful position, and then they conspire to control everyone else. And I don't think we believe that's how patriarchy was introduced into our world, or how it even operates. Indeed, men are the dominant figures in patriarchal society. But it was more of a contract. If I'm to borrow a term from Paminda, I don't remember whether it was last year or 2022, that patriarchy is more of a contract between different people, I'll just say men and women, as opposed to men deciding, you know what, we're just going to create a system that controls everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Thank you for that. I was going to move swiftly on now. The first sentence there, it talks about Simone de Beauvoir. Now, Simone de Beauvoir, she's a French writer, a feminist and social theorist, existential philosopher. She's best known for her ideas surrounding feminism. In her book, The Second Sex, is said to mark the beginning of the second wave of feminism across the globe. Now, she was born in 1908 and she died in 1986, age 78. I'm just going to go back. Can somebody read what's on the screen, please?
I can read it.
Thank you.
What does transitioning mean? This could involve some or all of the following. So only some or all of them. Clothing, makeup, or wigs. Using a different name and or pronouns she, her, him, they. Changing passports, medical forms, etc. Speaking differently. Wearing a binder or a pucker. Hormonal treatments, cosmetic treatments, example, hair removal and surgery.
Thank you very much, Magda.
Yeah.
Go on. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, so it's quite clear that basically transitioning for someone, it means for everyone something different. So some maybe choose to don't do anything of it and just change maybe the pronouns.
Yeah.
It could be all of it or some of it. Yeah.
Yes, okay, lovely. Thank you very much, Magda. So the misconception really about transitioning is not all trans people, just like Magda said, need or want to have surgery. So we should make assumptions really. So a trans person's gender is not defined by whether they've undergone or intend to undergo any particular treatment. So when I was at work, because I work for the NHS, I raised this question when I was looking at this system called WAPAS, and it's a medical system where everybody's details are recorded on there. So I was told that if I asked the question, I said, if a transporter came here, how would you record that on the system? And the manager Elizabeth said to me, well, she said, Debbie, we would have to find out if the trans person has a full sex change. And if they have a full sex change, then we would have put them on our system and put them on as what they identify themselves as. And I said, I've got to agree. I said, I've got to say, but I totally disagree with you. I said, if a gender comes and tells you they want to be called by or want to be known as, their name is Paul, and they want to be known as Paula, then we should accept the fact that they want to be known as Paula. And so I attended a gender awareness course. It wasn't mandatory, but I wanted to go on it because I wanted to see what they were drawing out about this, because the NHS stand up for equality and for LGBTQ, and I wanted to see how far they went. And so I actually challenged them on these systems. So we've actually got an equality department, and they talk, and it was actually them that did this particular course that I went on. And they were saying one thing. They said that, you know, a person should be identified what they say that they are, identify as, not just because they've had you know, a surgery. And I said, right, so we've got one department saying one thing, and we've got this other lady saying another. So I went to my manager, my line manager. I said, listen, we need to change this stuff on the systems. I said, I don't think it's right, because, you know, if a person's saying they want to be this and we're saying no, and I said, I can't imagine talking to a client and saying, listen, for me to put you on our system, I need to know this question: have you had a full sex change? Can you just imagine having to talk to a person about their private business and what they're supposed to have done? I said, there's no way that I would ask a person that. So what my line manager has done, she's taken that into consideration now, and she's actually writing a paper and report to say, listen, and I think she's writing to the CEO and said, listen, we need to adapt our systems so that when trans people want to be known by a certain name, we can put this and we can put that. And she's actually taken it to the CEO and written a report. Do you know, that made me so happy yesterday. It made my dad. I couldn't wait to share that with you today. So anyway, so yeah, so just by opening our mouths and challenging things, look what can take effect. So that's that. So I'm going to move swiftly on. Right, okay. Can somebody read the next one on the screen, please? The one who hasn't read, perhaps? I don't know how many people are here. And I haven't read the chat. Yeah. Can somebody just, Richard, do you mind reading that one, please, before we move on? Got time's against me, so I just need to move on.
Raymond singles out Stone, identifying her as one of the transsexually constructed lesbian feminists who have inserted themselves into positions of importance and or performance in the feminist community. Raymond likens the male to female transsexual Stone's important position as a sound engineer in Oliver Records to obstruct masculine behavior.
Obtrusive.
Raymond reproduces a sentence from a letter by Rosemary Anderson, a woman concerned about Olivia's Records' non-acknowledgement of Stone's maleness, and that a man was employed to be the sound engineer. I feel raped when Oliver passes off Sandy, a transsexual, as a real woman. After all, his male privilege, is he going to cash in on lesbian feminist culture too?
So this is what Raymond said. Anybody got
Definitely bitterness there.
Yeah, anybody got any comments? Thank you, Richard, on that one. Before we move swiftly on.
Debbie, do you know what Stone is, or who Stone is?
This is the person who actually was a trans woman and went for this particular job in worked for Olivia Records, went for this particular job, and this is what she's explaining. Didn't feel that, you know, because it was a sound engineer, and so when this trans woman went for it, this is what she's talking about and bringing out in the book.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So when she speaks about feeling raped when Olivia passes off Sandy, we
Yeah.
Sandy.
Sandy.
Oh, Sandy Stone.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Can we go on to the next one? Okay, this is a trans man, and this particular man is called Stephen Whittle. And basically, I want you to listen to his experience, because it's, even though we know that trans men go through some really horrible experiences, it's nice to sort of hear what he has to say and the positive things that have come out of his life since he transitioned. And then I'll tell you a little bit about him. He's an OBE. He was born in 1955, May 1955. He's a fellow of the Academy of Social Sciences. He's a British legal scholar and activist for the transgender activist group Press for Change. So, so since 2007, He's been a professor of equalities law at the School of Law at Manchester and Metropolitan University. So he's been involved for decades in sort of trans activism, and he actually transitioned in 1975. Okay, so we're just going to listen to a little excerpt from what he is going to talk about.
My name is Professor Stephen Whittle.
Can anybody hear that?
Yeah.
Yes.
You can. Right, I'm going to start it again then. I wasn't sure if anybody could hear.
My name is Professor Stephen Whittle. I'm a lecturer at Manchester Metropolitan University. I'm different because I'm a trans man. A trans man is somebody who is transvestite, transsexual or transgender who was born female-bodied, in other words, labelled a girl at birth. When I was young, I knew that I was different, but I didn't know in what way I was different. I'd really desired many of the clothes that my brother wore, and I hated a lot of the stuff that my mother wore. We had school sports day, girls' races and boys' races, and it was like a flash of light on the road to Damascus. It literally came to me that I was always going to be in the wrong race. But when I was 17, I went to the doctors about a minor sore throat and sat in the waiting room reading the magazines, and the story was about a female to male transsexual, and I knew that was the answer. I told my parents about what I wanted to do. They found it very, very distressing. I was really quite estranged from my family for several years. So I was taking hormones. I had a big bushy beard out here. To the outside world, I looked like a man as long as I kept my breast bound. But in the bedroom it was different. I felt ashamed of myself when I looked in the mirror. I felt appalled at what I was doing to myself. I had a couple of bad times when I did seriously try to commit suicide. I met my wife Sarah in 1978. I told her, I've not had any surgery. She said, I know. And I've got this dreadful looking body. She said, I'm sure it's not. And gradually, she helped me explore my own body. It was the start of my life. The surgery that I had was 5 operations to create a penis and testicles, and I was over the moon. To have the bulge in my pants, even my mother said to me, she said, I wasn't too sure about you having all this surgery, but your trousers hang better. In 1990, Sarah said she wanted to have children. We were not legally able to get married until 2005. It meant that Sarah and I were going to apply to have fertility treatment as if we were a lesbian couple. Eleanor was conceived. We had another son after that, Gabriel, and then we had a final session of fertility treatment where in fact Sarah conceived the twins, Lizzie and Pippa, and we were able to then explain that Daddy didn't have any sperm, so they were donor insemination, and then we were able to go back further and explain why Daddy didn't have any sperm, and they just took it like that. Transsexual became a normal part of their world. Would I have wanted to have been born a boy? No, because it gave me a whole set of life experiences that have enriched my later life, and for which I'm very, very grateful. So they were good things, really, in the end.
Okay.
My name is Professor Stephen Whittle.
Okay. Did anybody want to comment on that before we move on to reading this?
Lovely story, Deb.
Wasn't it? Absolutely. I found it quite. It was nice to hear somebody who had some positive, a trans man who had a positive things happen in their lives rather than depressive. It was nice. It just made me smile. And I thought, you know what? I've got to play this. But anyway, can somebody read what's on the screen? There is a reason why I played that particular video. So can somebody read what's on the screen, please?
Okay. Stephen Whittle believes Raymond's book has a devastating impact on transgender discourse by feminist theorists. The transsexual empire, he notes, greatly influenced feminist thought on transsexuals who were seen as misguided and men seeking surgery to fulfill some imaginary notion of femininity, and furthermore upholding the gendered sex role structure inherent in the patriarchal hegemony, which sought to discredit feminist work. Moreover, the cause for this is due to Raymond's work, which has discredited for a long time any academic voice transgender people might have, in particular, with feminist theorists. One major contention with Raymond's book is that it glosses over the lived realities experienced by transsexuals who, faced with social and political constraints, have to carefully observe the articulation of gender and sexual individuality concerning protecting their livelihood and well-being. Left wanting in Raymond's political and semiotic assessment of transsexuals are the basic socio-political and economic conditions that restrict transsexual freedom, a void that would be slowly filled by scholars in years to come.
Mhm. Yeah. Is that self-explanatory? So that was the gentleman that we just saw, giving his, talking about his life there. So we'll move on. Anybody wants to make any comments to that? Okay, so can somebody read what's on the screen, please?
Debs, could I just ask, has Stephen Whittle got a book out against this?
No, he hasn't. No, he's just he's an activist, but I don't think he has written a book. I know,
Okay.
and that's why I put him on there. Yeah, I don't think he has. I haven't looked at that, Natalie, but I will do for you at the end of this presentation. I don't think he has, but I'll definitely look for that though. Thank you. Can somebody read the next one, please? I've got to move swiftly on. Time is moving on. Somebody who hasn't read, perhaps, or
Debbie, there's Melania, Ignatius, and Susan are the only ones who haven't.
Melania.
I'm not sure if they're in a position to read or not. I can't.
Oh, they're not. There was Melania and who?
Melania, Ignatius, and Susan.
Ignatius, do you want to read what's on the screen, please?
Okay, I'll read.
Thank you.
Promise you won't ask me what it means.
I'm not going to. No, I won't promise that.
Okay. All right. Raymond's critique also exposed specific feminist assumptions, some of which are essentially in nature. She says that trans women and existentialist in nature. Okay. Some of which are existentialist in nature. She says that trans women and trans men are not men and women. In using the word constructed in terms such as transsexually constructed and male to constructed female, the authenticity of transsexed experiences and identities is suggested to be at best diminished and worst non-existent. This is further accompanied by the assumption that birth and chromosomal sex, as ordered by social, legal, and medical norms, determines the authenticity of gender identity. Any transformations transgressing this sex are unnatural. The transsexual woman is not and cannot be a woman because she or he is without the history of a woman.
That's strong, isn't it? What do you get from that? This is about the writer. So what do you get from that little excerpt then?
Yeah,
a short one, because it's all right. I've got to move on. You say.
You promised you would not ask me that question.
Yeah, you can just give me a short excerpt, and what you think. That's it. Doesn't have to be a long one.
I think the writer is further arguing that you need to have a history, that you were a woman, right? In order for you to be termed a woman. So a person was born and identified as a man at birth, and then they change to become women. They are not really women. Yes.
Yes, okay. Does anybody
It
thank you?
reminds me of J. Rowling, this comment.
Yeah.
You know, the one from that funny movie, I don't know what it's called.
Yeah,
But
I know.
it reminds me of that, her language, and this is all what TERFs, you know, the ones who are against transgender. It's all about, you're not a proper woman, you can't have children. This is their story against.
It is. Thank you very much. I'm going to be moving on. Sorry, because of time. Can somebody read the next one on the screen for me, please? What is sickness? Oh, what's it? Shouldn't be that. Oh dear. Oh, yeah, I think it's however, isn't it? Don't know what that one is. I don't think we read that one, have we?
No.
No, yeah. Can you read that one, please, somebody?
I believe Raymond intends for the history of a woman to comprise experiences informed by biology and gender role socialization specific and exclusive to biological females, which orientates them with the many forms of oppression latent necessary for their subversion and liberalization. Her refuting of transsexuality, right down to the usage of the description that any migration across the existing gender binary is illegitimate and a threat to women. However, it is patriarchal oppression itself that renders believable the essentialist idea in which individual sex and gendered histories are exclusive and key features of a man or a woman. Patriarchy extends to naturalizing and preserving the men and female woman and female woman
and order.
And order rarely challenged.
Yeah.
So basically speaking, I think the problem that she has in terms of, I don't know what, experience by biology. She's basically going back to biology and gender role socialization.
Yeah.
Right. In order to basically say this is a woman or this is a man. And I guess like they're saying, it also goes against women because everything else that we then argue as feminists about why women should be, the system should be corrected in order to give the rights to women. It then goes against us as women because she's using the same arguments that we are trying to get rid of in the feminist movement or feminist ideology, right? Of gender roles and biology.
Thank
So
you
I
very
guess
much.
in a way she's working against herself as a feminist.
Yes, she is. She is definitely.
In using those same arguments against transgender people.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm just going to move on. Thank you very much for that, Charity. Can somebody read the next one on the screen, please? Emma, can you read this one for me?
However, it is patriarchal oppression itself that renders believable the essentialist idea in which individual sexed and gendered histories are exclusive and key features of a man or a woman. Patriarchy extends to naturalizing and preserving the male man and female woman, an order rarely challenged as compared to that of the masculine man and feminine woman. The gender and sex role binary, a product of patriarchal oppression, continues to be safeguarded and unchallenged. Carol Riddell observes that Raymond also adopts general propositions of patriarchal scientific ideology, wherein sex is seen as chromosomally determined, despite attacking sex researchers for assuming biology and socialization are destiny, a source of great doubt for Riddell. For Raymond, while transsexuals remain reiterations of male domination, there will always exist authentic, biologically born, determined women who can forge real, original, and independent feminine identities. However, Raymond cannot be fully credited for robbing transgender people of support.
Yeah, do you want to break that down?
I don't know. Okay.
Emma,
Yes.
isn't she saying, and I may have misunderstood her whole train of thought in the last two the last slide and this one. Isn't she saying what we believe though, that biologically, in terms of your chromosomes and etc., those biological features, a person would be, I'll just stick to the binary for now for simplicity, male or female, but then it's the socialization that that person forges in their life through decisions they make, through decisions that society. What is she saying that's not that?
I'm not sure. I just feel that she's reinforcing binary gender.
How?
By
That's
saying
what
that,
I'm failing to understand. Yeah.
but the heterosexual binary, because she's saying that real women have to have women's body parts from birth to be a real woman. And it goes back to the question you asked earlier, which is, how do we define what a woman is? And then she's very anti-men. She's putting men over there and women over here. So she wants to divide society by gender. And she's blaming that on patriarchal oppression. And then she's saying, you can't be part of our club if you're trans. You're crossing over the line of this binary gender, which I don't like. So, and in doing that, you can't do that because you can't be a real woman and join us because you haven't had a real woman's experience. But at the same time, so in doing that, she's reinforcing binary gender. But she's saying that...
Is she reinforcing binary sex or gender? Because I guess that's what we need to be clear about when we speak about the two things.
I don't know if it's both. I don't know, because the middle there says the gender and sex are binary.
I would say.
Would you say both, Debbie?
Yeah, I would, yeah.
Yeah. It seems she's putting the two together and saying, well, you can't be a real woman without body parts anyway, so it's the same.
So then gender is something that's socialized.
No, she's actually putting both gender and sex
together.
Yeah, together.
Yeah.
Do we not believe that?
No.
So we believe that gender is something that's created by humanity and that's separate to biology. Yes?
We believe that gender is fluid.
What makes it fluid? What is gender? Aside from your sex.
No, it's role. We do believe that, yeah.
Exactly.
So we separate the two.
To make a point that this other thing is created by society.
Yeah.
So if we believe that it's created by society and that it's bad to do that, the conclusion should be that shouldn't exist. Sex is the thing that exists, and then characteristics are not labeled.
I guess the problem that's there with Raymond is that she's using the same arguments that are used against women for trans women, if you get what I'm saying. That there's a lot of the biology arguments that are used against feminists or people, the feminists who are trying to fight for women to gain certain rights, right, that they didn't have. And she's using those particular arguments against the trans women. And it then becomes like a circle. It comes back to bite you in the back as well, as a woman.
I guess that's what I don't think she is, though. In that, I think she's pointing out that you have these two people who are born with specific sex characteristics, not sex parts or what you want to call it. And then you have these extra things that happen in a person's life because of social conditioning that label something as feminine or masculine, male or female. And she's saying, let's just get rid of that and just say a woman is someone who has these 6 parts and a man is someone who has those 6. But the discussion about intersex is another discussion. But
no, I think she's going further than that. She's speaking about the woman experience. She's basically saying if you're a man, even if you say you're transitioning to being a woman, you can never be part of us because you don't have the woman experience.
Yeah.
And the
Okay.
woman experience, she's putting it to more than just biological.
Okay.
So she's basically saying whatever that you are feeling as a man is probably a fetish, because she's then going to the idea of, she's feeling robbed or raped when a man changes to a woman. If you get what I'm saying.
Could I also ask, sorry to interject, it's Ignatius.
Go on, Ignatius, go on.
Okay, maybe I'm picking from what Curtis is saying. I'm having more questions. So as people try to answer, they could also. I just want to add up my thought or my question.
Mm.
The question is, why does it matter for one to have that history, that the writer is arguing that you should have a history of a woman in order to be actually called, to be identified as a woman? Why does that matter to the person, to the writer? I did not understand the arguments. Maybe somebody picked them. I don't know.
I think as Charity was saying is at least what the author thinks that, like, to be a woman you need to have been treated with sexism. Like that's what defines being a woman, beyond your 6 parts. So that's from that statement, that's what Raymond is saying. And what Charity, correct me if I'm wrong, Charity is saying is that that shouldn't be a prerequisite to being a woman. And the evidence of that is that not every woman would have faced the exact same sexism as every other woman. So you can't use that as a prerequisite for what it means to be a woman. Charity, did I get that? You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's pretty much like that. Like what you're saying, that I think she's also trying to bring out that idea of saying, okay, I having been born a woman and you, Curtis, being born a man, you have had a different experience from me, because I was born a woman. I experienced certain things in life that, in society, sexism and all that are experiences that can only shared by women, or a history that only women can understand. So if you, Curtis, are now going to say, okay, I felt like I don't feel comfortable in this male body. I want to be, I feel I want to be a woman. She's now saying, because you didn't have the history that I have, you can never be a woman, no matter what you do. But on top of that as well, she is not addressing the experiences that you would have gone through as Curtis, whether it's your own experiences of sexism that you would have gone through growing up, or the struggles that you would have gone through. She's more of closing them up and saying, you just made a choice to just want to be a woman, because you'll still be a man and you'll still have these privileges that you had, and you are probably going to excel like stone as a male, not as a woman. I don't know if people get what I'm saying, but that's what I've been getting from what she has been saying. She's not addressing the struggles that those trans women actually go through. that can make us relate as well with them in terms of how society has, or the patriarchal system has caused problems for both the trans women and the women.
Can I add what Charity says? I agree with Charity. I also think that there's fear at the bottom of this, because this person's fearing that the transgender woman will take away the experience of the so-called real woman. There's a lot of fear involved in taking away that.
Okay, thank you very much. Because of time, I'd like to just press on if that's all right with everyone. Can somebody read this one, please, on the screen? Because we're going to wrap this up now. Blessing, do you want to read this one?
Okay.
Thank you.
Walker Williams and Bernice Osman also do violence to transgender in the same way Raymond does. They see transsexuals as willing participants of patriarchy, biological determinism, and male-dominated constructions of gender identity. Raymond's over-reading into transgender bodies and politics reveals an overestimation of male domination or female oppression, and a predisposition to collapse biological, genetic, and physiological dichotomous categorizations of sex into gender binaries. Moreover, she conceptualizes transsexuals as having no intervention and is unable to negotiate the structures of sex, sexuality, and gender in their respective environment. The critics may have perhaps been a little too gracious when they referred to her as a sociologist. Raymond, should I continue?
Yes.
Raymond's interpretation only presents a perspective which implicates transsexuals and situates them in the patriarchal fabric. Lacking sufficient transsexual accounts, the book does not address the struggles faced by transsexuals concerning assimilation in a patriarchal society. It is apparent that some scholars preoccupy and indulge themselves in the function and implication of transsexual experiences and action.
Yeah. Okay, leave somebody to think about that. I'm going to put something in the chat, and I'm just going to add something else. Bear with me. Let's put this bit as well. Oops. Copy that and. I'll put two things in the chat. Can somebody read them out for me, please? And then give me what they think. This is extracts from her book. Raymond's book. Somebody start reading the first one. Emma, do you want to read that one, please?
All right. I don't know if Melania and Simba are there. Actually, Simba's there as well. I didn't realise.
I don't know if Melania wants to read it then.
Can you read, Melania?
What's in the chat? So I'm conscious because it's 12 o'clock now, so.
I'm not sure. They don't seem to be speaking today.
Oh,
Let me just read it. How transsexuals think and... Oh, go on.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Some express the feminine identification.
No, how transsexuals, that one.
Just the one before that.
Oh, the one before that, okay. How transsexuals think and speak of themselves is very revealing. In preparation for this writing, I personally interviewed a sampling of 15 transsexuals. In the interviews, 13 of which were with pre- and post-operative male to constructed female transsexuals. I consistently asked why they wanted to be women. How, in other words, did they define themselves as female? Most of the transsexuals responded in terms of the classic feminine stereotype. Some wanted to be women because all their lives they had felt they were women trapped in men's bodies. One expressed this feeling in terms of absolute knowledge as opposed to mere desire. More specifically, many transsexuals said they viewed themselves as passive, nurturing, emotional, intuitive, and the like. Very often, men expressed a preference for female dress and makeup. Others saw their feminine identification in terms of feminine occupations, housework, secretarial, and stewardess work.
Want to read the next one?
Okay. Some expressed feminine identification in terms of marriage and motherhood, wanting to meet the right man, have him take care of me, adopt kids, and bring them up. One expressed very definite views on child rearing that were quite ironic in this context. I would definitely teach my kids that boys should be boys and girls should be girls. These kinds of overt stereotyped statements have had been reiterated by many of the more well-known transsexuals, like e.g. Jan Morris, Kristen Jorgensen, who have been interviewed on the talk shows and in other media. Alan Raisdon, in the process of undergoing hormonal treatment in preparation for surgery, states, "When I was a child, all I could think about was the girls' clothes and parties and things, and that I didn't like sports and fighting and things like that." He said that women are more emotional and sensitive. Men are more cold and insensitive. Men play more active roles usually, he said, and called himself passive.
What do you get from the author, what she's bringing out there?
Okay, what I've just understood in these two passages is that some transsexuals are giving the reasons why they so much wanted to be women, and some are giving things like everything that they've said is more to do with the socialization, how the society views women, someone who's emotional, someone who's like good at raising children and stuff like that. So the more much of the reasons they are given, they are more like the social constructs as compared to things that they intuitively want to be. And I think I have seen one who has given the reason that they felt that they are women who are trapped in a male body. So of all the reasons that they've given, I've just seen that only this one is the one that maybe, if I may say genuinely, they have the feeling that they are women from deep inside of them. But others, they're just giving reasons like they want to be associated with what women do in the society, which may be noble in some sense in how they view it.
Yeah. Does anybody, thank you, Melania. Does anybody else want to add to that before we move on?
Question on the back of that is if I suppose from what Melania is just saying, that all these arguments of gender roles, of what they see in society, of what women do and wear and be, that's what attracted them to be a woman. But then one person said, I just felt from inside that I was a woman from the start. How they would define that woman, it seems quite hard. And do we believe that if we were in a, and this is a hard one, it's just speculative, I know, that if we were in an equality society that wasn't patriarchal, because it's created these gender roles, we didn't have, and this is the question we go back to all the time, I think, in discussing trans people, is that if we were not in the patriarchal society we are in, would there be any need for a trans person to feel that they're trans? And that's kind of like at the root of that question. So if we go by the argument at the last argument that Lonnie just said about the person feeling something inside them from the beginning that they felt female, not male, is that something physiological, hormonal, that would still be there even if everybody practiced equality? I don't know. That's the question, I suppose.
You think, remember, that some trans would need to have the operations because that's how they would feel complete, and you can't blame them.
What's that? Say that again. Sorry, you cut out at the beginning.
I think, you know, even if we didn't have all the constructs in the society, I think some trans women would still need to have the operations because that's how they would feel complete, and you can't blame them. That's whatever makes them feel how they're meant to be. It doesn't matter if there's if the constructs weren't there of the makeup and the patriarchal stuff and how a woman should be and look or whatever, they still might need to transition, you know, like I just said.
And if that's the case, that follows on with what Curtis just put in the chat, which is, and if that's the case, then we would end up at the conclusion that men and women are different, because there's something innate that makes someone a man and someone a woman, and it is attached to the biology. But it's like, and we know obviously we were created male and female in the beginning, or there was some creation distinction in biology at the beginning. So whether and we can't know, I guess it's the nature nurture argument, how much of it's nature and how much of it's nurture. But even if a tiny bit's nature, what you're saying would be true. It's not just nurture. There's something innate about being male and female, which we don't seem to be able to define.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry. Could I say that? Sorry.
Yes, so yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I think methodology and the nature of a human being studies cleared out for us that, you know, there's no male or female brain, and science backs that up. One good book, of course, is Gina Rippon's book on the gendered brain. However, in that book, she does acknowledge that we are still quite a way off as human beings in understanding the intricate relationships between nature and nurture. So that is the subject of how we form identities, how we behave, and how we self-identify are not as simple and straightforward as we might want them to be. So in saying that, I'm not suggesting that in a perfect world, an ideal world, which is a world of equality, that you would have people wanting to change their body. But what I am saying is that women and men are the same. I agree with Curtis. Women and men are the same. So that one I'm saying, I think science and our methodology has given us that base. But also I just wanted to say that because it was raised, the issue of nature and nurture, but the interactions of our environment with our biology and how basically both are affected by the other is something that as human beings we don't fully understand. So it's not as simple as saying the environment I'm in is what determines my behavior, for example, how I think, and vice versa. You know, that basically my biology is what determines certain aspects of who I am in my life. It's a very complicated relationship between the two of these things. That's what I wanted to say. But of course, the reason why we use parables is because we try and simplify complex phenomena. And the simple model we get is at the very base, at the very fundamental. Men and women are the same. And in a more equitable world, there would definitely be far less to stress about in terms of how you form your identity.
Thank you very much, Blessing. Can somebody read the next one on the screen for me, please, before we wrap up? Melania, would you like to read the short sentence one, or Magda? Perhaps?
Okay, the one on the screen?
Yes, please, yeah.
Okay. Situating them as subsets of a larger generalistic theoretical framework. In the process, we overlook the form and the context of transsexual experiences and the need to assimilate into a society of gendered norms, culture, and categorical orders. The failure to properly assimilate is greeted with social, economic, political, administrative, and psychological repercussions. Such a realization is pressed for more research and discourse oriented towards the context in which transsexuals and transgender people in general live.
Yeah. Do you want to make any comments before we move on to that, Melania? No, okay. Can somebody just read this next one? We're just going to wrap up now.
Raymond's own biases thwart her understanding of what being transsexual is. She does not understand the inner struggle that transsexuals go through, not to mention the prejudices and oppression as they try to be accepted into society as women or men. Even though Raymond had interviewed transsexuals, her language shows that she is only seeing the male body and the control and privileges that men have, coupled with the blame that the patriarchal society blames upon women. Raymond, even though she speaks about the patriarchal society with all its failings, fails to realize that she is part of it and participating in it. Her sexist views about trans women in particular come to the surface time and time again in her book. And now it is clear to see Raymond has also become the oppressor with sexist views. Raymond is caught up in patriarchy and enacting this out. Her radical stance on this is for people to understand her rhetoric and be influenced by it. She uses other writers to back up her understandings of trans women who think on the same wavelength. Raymond's book has had considerable influence on how women in particular think or relate to trans women, and the result, transphobic feminism.
Thank you. I'm just going to put something in the chat again, and I'd like somebody to read that out, please. Maybe yourself, Charity, if you want to do that.
Okay. Finally?
Yes.
Finally, there were some critics who charged me with intolerance. In my not accepting men as women, some critics accused me of not tolerating the differences of others. As I wrote in the Transsexual Empire, this kind of tolerance is a very passive position and only encourages the creation of more medical victims to sex role conformity. What I do accept is that men and some women who undergo transsexual surgery are terribly alienated from their bodies, so alienated that they think little of mutilating them. I accept the fact that transsexuals have suffered an enormous amount of physical and emotional pain, but I don't accept the fact that someone's desire to be a woman or a man makes one a woman or a man, or that the instrumentality of hormones and surgery creates a real woman or man. Robert Stoller, a psychoanalyst, has probably done the major work in developing psychological theories about the mother's feminized phallus or father's castrated fem.
You want to comment on that?
So her issue that she's trying to bring out is that it doesn't matter how much transitioning you can do, whether to become a man or a woman. That doesn't make you a man or a woman.
Mm.
And yeah, I guess that's what she's basically saying.
Yeah, okay then.
Just cutting out the biological and just putting emotions and feelings.
Yeah. Thank you very much. This is what I wanted to do. I spoke at the beginning of my study to say I wanted to see what was in the mind of a radical feminist who's a lesbian feminist who was transphobic. And some of these words is what I know there's more I can put in there, but this is what I've dragged out of her book. And this is what it looks like. So this is her brain. There should be, let's just put that back. So this is the brain. And this is the things that I've seen that are within her thinking. Could somebody just read them all out for me, please? Melania, would you like to do that?
Hi, Debbie.
Can you see it?
Yeah, let me try and magnify it, yeah?
So
Against this,
Yeah, so it's basically this is what I've drawn out from her book. That's in her
Okay.
brain. Yeah, you can go ahead now, Melania.
Okay. Against sexual reassignment, discredits feminist work, male project carried out by men for men, men shape women, exclusionary attitude, transphobic feminism, harmful stereotypes, constructed, part of the beauty industry, no history of a woman, male inventiveness, foot binding, pornography, doesn't believe men too can become
Radical.
RF,
Yeah. Radical feminist.
separatist feminism, woman in born, woman in policy, artifacts of female biology, discrimination, stigmatization, threat to feminism, reinforced gender roles, access to healthcare, against rights, constructing women from male flesh, deviant males, creation of the patriarchal medical establishment, misguided and mistaken men.
Thank you, Melania. So these are the things that I pulled out from the book. I mean, there's obviously more words I could put in there, but these are what I was trying to find out, what was in the mind of a radical lesbian feminist that was against is sort of men exclusionary, trans exclusionary. So these are the words. So this is her brain, and these are the words that I found in them. And basically, winding it all up, she's part of patriarchy. Thinking that way, part of the patriarchal system, and also she's sexist. So these are the things that I put together, and we can all come to the conclusion of. I'm just going to play this bit of a little excerpt. It's very short, and basically I just want us to think about, when we think about transsexuals, how we address them, the feelings that they go through. It's a very simple little video, but I thought I'd leave you with this to think of. Every name's a story. So forget about the ad itself. It's supposed to be a coffee ad, but forget about that. But I want you to think about what this person's thinking, going through.
Gemma Miller?
Gemma Miller, please come to room 4.
Hello?
Hello, am I talking to Gemma?
Hey, Dad.
Hey! Carol, you remember my Gemma?
Gemma? How you doing?
And what's your name?
It's James.
James?
Thank you, everyone. That's the end of my presentation today. Anybody like to make any comments before we end the presentation?
Thanks, Deb. So that's why it's important to know pronouns and how people like to be addressed.
Yes.
It's really hurtful properly.
Yeah, it did do something to me when I looked at that. Did that have an effect on anybody else? No?
Hi, Debbie.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the lesson was quite timely, especially regarding what happened at the Olympics.
Yeah.
It triggers, further research into that issue.
Yes.
Unfortunately, for time, maybe we may not be able to discuss what happened, but what we have just covered in this lesson, it helps us to really have the right perspective with regards to this issue of transsexuals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, if nobody else has got anything to say, I'm going to end the presentation now. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
You know, actually, Debbie,
Yeah.
I was talking to someone who I did do coaching course with
Yeah.
back in time, and I was basically talking about our movement and how we are LGBTQ included, and we had a discussion, and then she has mentioned to me that sometimes she didn't agree to what the coach was saying, how she was saying and kind of like doing that we have a just one gender. And then I was leaving her a message back, and then I realized, because as I was replying, I was like, but I actually believe we do have a one gender, that it's the gender roles and that stuff. And as I was talking, I've just realized our message is we are same if you take aside the physical stuff, the biology, the sex, but the gender, we were learning that we are same, we have the same brains and that stuff. So as I was leaving her voice message and saying, yeah, but I agree with that we have just one gender, but it's often the way we are raised, the patriarchal system. She is very understanding of all these things. She has a good understanding. And the sexism and the expectations on us and that stuff. And I think that's where I was starting thinking, oh, our message is we are same.
Yeah.
And that goes into the argument what was trying to asking Curtis. So what is it? What way are we different? Nobody managed to say what is woman, what is man, except of the biological things. And that goes back to Emma's comment, how it would be if the patriarchy wouldn't be here, and the expectations on people as well. And I think I didn't kind of like until this moment when I was replying with our message, I've realized this. So I guess that's maybe just thought for the end. But at the same time, we need to see that the problem is patriarchy, not trans people.
Exactly. It is. Amen. Thank you for that.
I just wanted to share this too.
Yes, definitely. It is patriarchy, definitely. And our sexist views, really. So I'm just going to do a prayer now and end the presentation, and then I'll pass back over to whoever's leading out. I think Magda's leading out today. Yeah.
Can I just say to Magda, isn't that what this woman who wrote this book is saying? She's saying the problem is patriarchy as well.
Yeah, but she's not understanding that she's in patriarchy by the way that she's thinking, the way that she's
I know she's supporting it. She's supporting patriarchy in it.
Yeah,
but she also says patriarchy. Yeah, I just want to say
she
that.
does recognise it, but she doesn't realise she's in it as well.
I think the answer's still unanswered about how would it be if we didn't have patriarchy, or if we we didn't have the if transgenders didn't have the social construct, how would it all be then?
Yeah, exactly.
Would they want to?
Yeah,
I think just on that point as well, actually, Natalie put something about sexuality in the chat, and I think that is certainly part of our makeup, our sexuality. And to me, the more I look at stuff, the more I look at hormones, for instance, it's very complex how people feel and why they feel the way they do, why they're attracted to certain people, and the same for why do they feel like a male or female. I'm looking at that in a similar way. There's that mind-body connection. There's something that doesn't fit with their mind to their body in that situation of being trans. And I think that it seems very complex science, because we don't know how to answer why people are attracted to people. Some people are not others. And we don't know that that's even that set, even though people say they're heterosexual or homosexual. Well, some don't, they say they're bisexual. But there's such a spectrum with that as well, that given the right circumstances and the right person, who knows what anyone could be if their hormones are altered, if they're put in the right context. As we've seen with patriarchy, people are damaged by the context. So it's not that straightforward. And I think that's Curtis's point in as well, that the author doesn't represent all trans questionary thought. And there's a lot of questions around this that we can't answer, I think.
Yeah, Curtis said there's extensive research around the fact that there's no genetic markers for sexuality.
Extensive research around the fact there's no genetic markers for sexuality.
I was just saying, there's nothing biological that codes for sexuality, and there's quite a lot of research that's been done on that.
So what do they put it down to then? We don't know.
We don't know, but it's not our biology.
I think this is where we then begin to also ask the questions about what Raymond was saying, because it seems she was also focusing a lot on the biology.
Yeah,
and she was taking the experiences of biology and defining a man and a woman. And like Emma said, it's quite difficult, especially when you get to the issues like she was saying of how we can't explain how a person is attracted to another person. So, and even also for me, I was now thinking, okay, so then how do we define this whole thing of saying, there's no gender? So how do we explain how a person like feels, that the whole thing of the connection between your body and your mind, and someone else has a different experience, how do we connect that, and then to the attractions that we have and all, and then how do we explain the issue of gender then in that sense? So it's something for us to think about. It's quite complicated.
Okay, I'm just going to do a prayer now, okay, so we can actually end the recording. So, dear Holy God, we thank you so much for this blessed Sabbath day, and that we can really discuss something really of deep issue within all of us today. And we thank you the fact that we've got the time and and that we can discuss it, and given the opportunity to present it today as well, Lord. I certainly learned a lot from it today, and other people's views that came forth, very interesting, and so will give us food for thought as we end our Sabbath today. So thank you so much, Lord, and thank you once again for being there for us and for all these wonderful things that we can learn, of the things that you want us to learn and can grow in all the things that we're learning. So thank you, Lord, for we give you thanks and praise in and through our beloved Saviour, always to your great and glory. Amen. Over to you, Magda.